Okay, can we read our compliance statement and get started here?
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act with the annual notice advertised in the Trenton Times. The meeting notice was provided to the Hunter County Democrat and the Trenton Times, sent to department heads, members on the listserv, and was posted on the glass door of the elevator entrance at City Hall. The meeting agenda was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the city's website at www.lambertville.nj.org. This session will be recorded using Zoom, and the recording will be posted to the city's website. The meeting agenda offers the planned action items of the governing body to the extent known at the time of publication.
Thank you. Council President Nacero, or actually, I'm sorry, Cindy, would you mind reading in the motion for a closed session, and then we'll take a vote on the motion?
Sure. It's a resolution to go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privileges, issues related to contract negotiations and pending litigation pursuant to NJSA 40:4-12B7.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Sanders, Councilwoman Urbish for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll be back at 7 o'clock. Folks, we're gonna get started here in about 2 minutes. We're just waiting for everybody to get out of the closed session, and then we will begin. I think we're just waiting for Councilwoman Urbish, and then we can get started. Okay. Cindy, can we read the compliance and get started?
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act with the annual notice advertised in the Trenton Times. The meeting notice was provided to the Hunterdon County Democrat and the Trenton Times, sent to department heads, members on the listserv, and was posted on the glass doors of the elevator entrance at City Hall. The meeting agenda was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the city's website at www.lambertville.nj.org. This session will be recorded using Zoom, and the recording will be posted to the city's website.
Thank you. Can I get a roll call?
Councilman Sanders.
Here.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Here.
Councilwoman Urbish.
Here.
Council President Asaro.
Here.
Mayor Fall.
Here. Can I ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also like to ask for a moment of silence for those serving in our military at home and abroad, and for those who are serving on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. I'm going to kick this over to President Asaro here in a moment, but I wanted to address something first to the public before we get into our agenda tonight. I want to talk a little bit about something that was a comment that was posted on the city's Facebook page over the weekend. I normally don't address some of the nonsense that happens on our city's Facebook page, masquerading as civic engagement, but this particular comment was so reprehensible that I can't allow it to stand without being acknowledged. This weekend, a member of our community, Matt Hansen, compared me to Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. Both men are convicted rapists and predators. I am an out rape survivor, and I am not the only person in our community who has suffered sexual abuse and violence. There should be consequences to the things that you say and write online. And it must be a privilege to be able to write something like that about a neighbor and a member of our community, and then move along with your day with no thought at all to the pain and hurt that that would cause, not just the person you're writing it about, but to other people who are reading it and who came to that page on that Facebook for information. This was not the only inflammatory, unfounded, and degrading thing said about me this weekend, but it was certainly the worst. Over the last several weeks, I have received outreach from multiple parents in our community really concerned with the tone and tenor of our Facebook, and it has become a significant concern of mine. I am tired of this. My family is tired of it, and I am no longer going to accept it. I don't think that actions like this should be acceptable in our community writ large. This is not the first time I have opened up a meeting complaining about this type of reprehensible behavior. And I don't think that it should be tolerated in our community. We have a packed agenda tonight, and I want to get to work, but I could not, in good conscience, allow this to stand without comment. So with that, I'm going to ask Council President Asaro to start the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Very sobering words. Appreciate it. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the bills list or questions. Can I get a motion? Councilwoman Urbish
Second.
and Councilwoman Taylor. And Cindy, could you please do a roll call vote?
Councilman Sanders.
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish.
Yes.
Council President Asaro.
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right. We're going to be moving on now to the resolutions. I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to approve these, but before I do, any questions? They kind of run the gamut here from our corrective action plan to some transfers and some rebates for tax liens, et cetera. Any questions from the council? All right. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda. So they are 139, 142, 143, 144, 45, 146, 147, 149, 150, and 151. Can I get a motion to move those on the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. So first the mayor and then Councilwoman Urbis and City Clerk, could I please get a roll call vote?
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Asara,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right, Mayor, I think we're over to you for the public hearing and second reading.
Yeah, I do want to note here, we're going to be taking comment on these public hearings for both ordinances in their second reading. And then we will be waiting till the end of the comment period, the end of the agenda for any general public comment. As a reminder to members of the community, we're going to hold everyone to a 3-minute timeline to ensure that this meeting is, in compliance with our current rule, public hearing rules, and that we move along as quickly as possible. So that, with that being said, we're going to open up the public hearing and second reading for the ordinance to purchase the property located at 260 North Main Street, Block 1002, Lot 41, and to authorize the execution of agreements in connection to that purchase. I do have a, oh, I'm sorry. Can I get screen share power here?
You should have it now.
There we go. And then can I also make sure that at the end of this that we also elevate our cat chairs, Paul Cool and Sarah Gold, as I think some of those questions will be directly related to the cat. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great. And now I just have to figure out how to play this. Give me 1 second here. Sorry.
Would it be under view or
There
slideshow?
we go. Okay, so we've had some general questions from the public that have come through the CAT as well as through our email. So I just wanted to address some of those frequently asked questions right out front. The major takeaways of this should be that this is an opportunity for us to preserve one of the second largest tract of undeveloped land in the city of Lambertville. This is a historically and culturally relevant piece of property in our community. And we have an opportunity to stop that from being overdeveloped and to maintain the rural and historic character of our community. The city is going to be working with the community advisory team to discuss the acquisition and the use of this property with the community. The actions and steps that we're taking today are just an opportunity for us to do our due diligence and ensure that we can gain exclusivity of this property so that we can take it off the open market and begin to do our due diligence for what's going to be a 6-month process. Finally, I want to address that we plan on, there are some strange rumors sort of percolating throughout the community. The plan and goal for this, for the governing body is to keep the property largely the same, preserving this historic viewshed in perpetuity and creating almost 6 acres of preserved land, as well as opening up a truly historic building for potential public use. But we are, again, just at the beginning of this process. So we are now at the, at the very top of our our timeline, we have between now and the beginning of April, we have a lot of due diligence, including environmental studies, studies with civil engineers, and doing the sort of historic preservation and land preservation due diligence work. If at any time this city sees, receives information during this due diligence that would make this property no longer viable for preservation, then we would come back as a governing body. So we are, again, just at the beginning of this process. As a quick brief reminder, this is the property that we have. This is the 8.4 acres of property for the Clausens. The goal here is to, the goal here is to preserve most of that property. This is a draft version of what that preservation would look like. We're going to be working with experts from the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, as well as the Hunterdon Land Trust, to finalize, this, what exemption areas are outside of our preservation. But again, the goal of this is to get to as much preserved land as possible. So what is this going to cost us? The estimate right now, which includes down payments, all of the ongoing studies, all of the due diligence, as well as the actual acquisition of the property, and then what that is going to cost households between over the next 25 years and annually. It's important to note that we are reallocating money from your taxes that we already levy. There will be no new tax increase as a part of this project. And I'm going to get into that here in a moment. But of the money that we're reallocating, functionally, it's about 63 cents of the average Lambertville's tax dollars is going to be reallocated to paying for this project. Ooh, excuse me. This is how we got to that potential cost, including down payment, the purchase price, some of the due diligence, which again includes the study of the property. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. How is it possible that we're going to have a multi-million-dollar acquisition of property and it won't affect your taxes? We're going to get into some graphs later, but I wanted to sort of address this straight out. The city has already had a referendum in a previous year to levy an open space tax. That was originally 2%. It was then moved down to 1%. That money collected through the open space tax can only be used for the acquisition or maintenance of property. The city of Lambertville has already spoken. They want us to use the public wants us to use open space money to ensure that we're doing exactly what we're doing here, which is preserving a really important, culturally important piece of property. Because of the timing of this municipal bond and the way that this is structured, we have some debt that's creating a little bit of a budget crisis between 2021 and 2022. This debt wouldn't come online until 2025. And so this doesn't directly relate to our current financial crisis. And we have some bonds that will be paid off. And by that time, we'll sort of have some wiggle room to pay for this bond out of the taxes that we already levy. So we're using our existing resources and our budget structure so that this project will have no new tax impact to Lambertville residents. What does that mean? Basically, you guys have seen this graph multiple times before. This is what it looks like when you bond. You have a down payment. We're paying with that down payment with an open space tax. Then that bond payment will come online in 2025, 2026. So let's look at, this is our current funded debt schedule. This is, of all of the money that we've borrowed, this is what we expect to pay between 2020 and 2034. And so that's sort of our schedule as it stands now. This yellow line here indicates how much we budget every year for debt service payments, which is the scheduled payments that we are obligated to pay. So any increase over this line would indicate a tax increase. However, we know that that we don't want to incur a significant tax increase, so we want to stay below this line. This dashed green line here is the best practice for debt service load year over year for the next 30 years. We heard from multiple members of the community that they wanted to see not only what our current debt service obligations were, as well as the Clausen property, but also what our annual borrowing obligation and other facility costs might look like, and how we can get to a more responsible debt service load over time. So,
Mayor, can I just clarify one thing? When we talk about the payments for the debt service, we're talking about money coming out of the operating budget.
that's correct.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like your mortgage payment. You've taken out that chunk of money for your home or your car or whatever it is, and then you make monthly payments towards it out of your regular budget. That's what this is, making payments on the debt out of our operating budget.
Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification. And the other thing to note here is that, for this best practice, right, we've been talking a lot about, how the city can get to a place where we are budgeting in a way where we're not spending almost 24% of our current operating budget on debt, right? So we want to get to that 8 to 10% range that most municipalities are in. So where we are right now is this yellow line. That's what we're budgeting for. The obligated annual payments, so it's this purple line. The stuff in the middle is the difference, right? That's going to be basically wiggle room in our budget based on the offlining of debt service year over year. So this blue squiggle here will eventually become extra funding in our operating budget because it's not being spent on debt service. We're proposing that we take some of that wiggle room and direct it towards the preservation of a deeply important cultural asset that we have in our community, the Clausen site. So what does that look like? So what we did was in response to, and this will be online tomorrow. I have a video sort of doing exactly what I'm doing now, which we will also place online and make sure that folks have this available to sort of reference. What this means is if we can take what our current debt obligation is, plus annual borrowing at $350,000 to $400,000 of investment a year. That's to buy new trash trucks, buy new street sweepers, do road maintenance, and ultimately to start to look to some facility maintenance between now and 2026. That takes all of this into account, and it is still below the yellow line, which is our tax increase line. What this does here is it does reduce the amount of wiggle room that we have between 2021 and 2025 for other, it slightly reduces that wiggle room, but it's still, I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble here. We still will have zero tax impact for borrowing from the Clausen site, having a reasonable capital budget every year, and be able to address some of our facilities concerns, all while moving ultimately towards 2033, wherein we'll see again a significant drop in our capital, in our current debt obligations, and get us to a place where we are under the appropriate line for best practice debt service. So we can make an investment to save the Clausen site from overdevelopment and still work towards a more best to the best practice debt load. So in sum, the argument here is that there'll be no direct impact to taxpayers. We will be able to do an important preservation project by reallocating about 63 cents of taxes you already pay, and also be able to address facility concern with the police department and the acquisition of the Clausen site. Are there any questions from the governing body before we move on here?
Mayor, I have one, just a clarification. The payment schedule, so when we start paying down the debt associated with this preservation project, is 2026, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and some of the debt that we're talking about that's coming off of the books starts to come off the books in 2025?
2024.
2024. Okay, so there's also those 2 years. So actually, this project doesn't inhibit capital investments that the city needs to make between now and 2026.
That's correct. And the graph that I showed you here, which I can actually get back to this if you give me a second here. The graph that I just showed the governing body here. Can you guys still see that?
Not yet.
Sorry.
But Mayor, I think once you get that up on there, maybe keep it up because I'm sure we're gonna get some questions that you might need to relate to this.
Sure. So this graph should show you here that we can be making somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 of capital investment a year in things like trash trucks, street sweepers, police cars, computer technology, other general capital worthwhile annual capital investment, but we will still have space to make other major investments in our community, like the facilities. But what we've done, which is something that was specifically asked of us from the community, was to divorce the police facility issue from the other larger facility issues that we have. We heard loud and clear that the community wanted more time to discuss what our needs were for either preserving the historic buildings that we're currently in versus consolidation or whatever else. So we're going to leave that to the community advisory team and the community to have an ongoing conversation, but we have space in our budget to manage that investment, as well as an annual capital investment in our an annual budget and the Clausen site. And this is, again, exactly what was asked of us to do between the last meeting and this meeting, was to really look at a 30-year timeline of what this would mean for our community. And I think it's important to note here that even with those long-term investments, there's no direct tax impact to the community. I would also like to note just really quickly here before we move on that this assumes that we get no refund for any of the preservation work that we're doing, nor it also assumes that that there's a net zero gain on the sale of the police site. So this is actually wildly, it also assumes a 4% borrowing for interest. So this is a wildly conservative number. I feel very confident that this will end up having even less impact over time as we start to work towards with the county, with Green Acres, and with these not-for-profit preservation organizations on this project that ultimately will have even less impact on the reallocation of taxes. Are there any other questions from the council before we open up for public comment? Okay. Do we need a motion? We just need a motion to close. We don't need a motion to open public comment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so just as a reminder, this public comment should be limited to just the acquisition of the Clausen site. And you'll have time to make other claims or discussion at the end of the council meeting. We're going to limit everyone to 3 minutes. Are there any questions or comments from the community?
Yes. Mary Jane, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Can I be heard now?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, it's Mary Jane Legere, 103 North Union Street. And I just have a really quick, some comments. I wanted to thank you, Mayor Fall, and council members, as well as the community advisory team, for all the work and the creative thinking that you're putting into this possible purchase and preservation of the Clausen Holcomb property. You know, some of you know, everything's been on a back burner for me for about 4 months because of some family issues. So I really just the past week started digging into some of the details, beginning to do my own due diligence so that I can understand, what this project means to our great city, to all of us as residents, to my dear friends, the Clausens, who've, contributed so much to our town for a lot of years. And to that end, there's been a lot of information that I'm starting to dig into that you and the team are, making available. And I really appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to avail myself of that information, and will, direct, questions and things I need to have clarified to, maybe some of the CAT team. And so, but I want to say that right now I stand in really strong support of moving forward by signing the contract with the Clausens. I know it's just the beginning, and there's still points where either one side could pull out, and a lot needs to be settled on both sides. But the project, to me, just seems to tick off a lot of boxes. Historic preservation, the community's desire to prevent overdevelopment. And, I've been hearing a lot of other interesting creative uses for the property. And of course, I love kids and I'd love to see them sledding down Kettle Hill for many years to come. So it's my hope that we can make this work. And so that's really it from me right now. And like I said, I know I'll have more questions as the weeks roll out here. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Marcia, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Hello, my name is Marcia O'Connell. I'm at 115 North Main Street. Can you hear me? Okay, great. And I just wanted to thank the council also very much for the incredible amount of work that's already been done. I've lived here for over 20 years now, which I know is hardly any time at all, but I've lived here for only over 20 years. And there was quite a bit of development under the previous mayor, which was necessary at the time for some housing. And I'm just so delighted that the current mayor and the current council has really decided not to go in that direction, and instead to take this tremendous opportunity to preserve open space and preserve the history of the town. So I am also strongly in favor of this, of your moving forward with this, and delighted to have the opportunity to learn so much about it. I have to say, since the current mayor has been in office, I've learned more about every single aspect of decision-making in this city than I had in the previous 20 years. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to be strongly in support of this.
Thank you. Can we have the next comment?
Paul, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Hi, good evening. Paul Stevens, 39 Corey. I wanted to make sure I understood what I thought I heard you say. You in those calculations for money and in the out years, it sounded like you said moving the police station up there would be a net zero. You were not assuming that, you assume that whatever we got for the old police station would pay for putting the police station up on the Clausen property. Is that the way you?
No, that's not correct. That calculation assumes that we get no money from the sale of the police site and that we bond for the entire move of the police station, and it's still a net zero for tax impact.
So what was assumed for the bond for the police station? I missed that then. Thank you. That's what. Whoops.
That's available on the website in the finance draft. It's about $700,000. And that has been confirmed by multiple experts in the field.
Okay. The other thing is there are a couple of underlying assumptions you talked about at the first reading. And one of they were both revolved around finding nonprofits to run the historic site and also Homestead. What's plan B for those? I mean, I'm fully in support of doing that. You know, I think it's great, but ultimately the cost would come back down onto the city if couldn't find nonprofits that could do that.
The city wants to work with the community advisory team and the community, as I stated at the beginning of my proposal, to talk about not just the acquisition, but the use of that property. And we've got 6 months to work on plan A, B, and C.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sue, please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question.
Sue Bell, 407 Surgeon Drive. Actually, my question was answered, so I was just going to put my hand down. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Alicia, please state your comment or question.
Hey, good evening. Alicia Lerman, 101 East Blair Track. In general, I'm in support of going after this. I do have lots of questions with respect to the financials. I understand the financials if this is looked at as a standalone project. And I think the city has other big capital projects that we don't know about yet, that aren't being taken into account. So I don't know that we can unequivocally say it's not going to have a net tax impact. That's assuming everything else stays equal. I mean, I think we're going to have more than $300,000-400,000 in other capital work to manage the city going forward. So I'm a little concerned about that. But one of the bigger questions, two questions I have, one, in order to get what has to get done within the next 6 months, looks like it might require a full-time project manager. A lot of work has to get done and follow up. And how is this going to be budgeted, or how will this be taken care of? The other question I have is with respect to the overlay that was once on the Clausen property and now is off the Clausen property. And I'm just kind of confused about all of that. And, I'm although I know it's a done deal with the police side, I'm still struggling with, maybe we could have developed some of the 8 acres for the affordable housing for the entire nut for the city. So if you can just clarify for me the overlay on off issue and the project management issue, that'd be great.
Mayor, if you'd like, I can take this. I know that you've taken a lot of them already. So I think in terms of a full-time project manager, I don't know if it's something that would require a full-time position or not, but it is something that we've been thinking about and are certainly going to talk to the CAT about. And, any potential budget impact there would, of course, be brought into the draft finance plan that was developed for this project. I think it's definitely worth considering. So I appreciate you bringing that up. With the zoning overlay, I don't know if our city planner's on here. I don't feel comfortable speaking to it without, frankly, confusing people more. And so, Mayor, I don't know if that's something that we want to answer right now, if we don't have the planner on, or if that's something that maybe we can provide in writing later. What do you think is best there?
Yeah, I think this is a relatively clear question. I know Emily is here if we have further follow-up, but the overlay on this site is sort of moot if we are moving towards preservation. the underlying zoning or the overlay, the potential overlay would have, Emily, I see your hand. I got you. Only matters if this were being developed for housing. I think the community has spoken loud and clear that they want to stop overdevelopment and stop the development of a historically relevant site. And so the underlying zoning would not be, is moot at that point. We're not planning on developing this site. We could go into the history of what happened with the overlay on the Clausen site. It was never passed, but I don't think that that's worth getting into here. And it is on the city's website in our affordable housing timeline, if you'd like to learn more. Emily, is there anything you'd like to add there?
No, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that that overlay, which was proposed in November of 2018, was never actually adopted on the site. So no affordable housing overlay was ever adopted or put on the site. So it's just the underlining RL zoning is the only zoning for the site.
Which we've calculated at somewhere between 11 and 12 units.
Yeah,
Okay.
based on the maximum density permitted.
Great, thank you. All right, can we get the next question?
Deb, please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question.
Hi, this is Deb Vary, 115 Clinton Street. I don't have a question. I just am calling in just to support the city moving forward with the acquisition of the Clausen property. I think it's really important with regard to open space. And I think the land will be sold regardless. So I think it would be much better for the city to be able to acquire it and to move forward with the proposed plans. Anyone who's ever sold a home knows that time is of the essence. And so I appreciate the Clausens being willing to work with the city rather than moving forward with a developer. But I think if the city takes its time, they're going to just want to move forward as anyone who's selling any property would. So I appreciate all the work that the CAT and the city has done with regard to learning about the property. And I'm definitely supportive of moving forward with the acquisition. I think it'll only be good for Lambertville.
Thank you. Okay, can we get the next question?
Karen, please state your full name and address into the record.
Hi, this is Karen Conlon, 136 North Union. Just want to say three things. Number one, Mayor, I feel really bad about what you said in the beginning of the meeting. And I just want to let you know, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your creativity, your financial knowledge, and that you take the time to explain a lot of these complex, difficult issues to our citizens. I've really learned a lot. I am a member of the CAT, so I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that. I like this idea because Lambertville doesn't really have any more large existing open space. And I think that anything that we can do to preserve this open space will be a great thing to do. And I think 10, 20 years from now, people are going to look back and be very happy that this property was preserved. And I think too that moving forward, I know we have a lot on our plate in regards to existing buildings and reusing buildings. And I just feel like we should focus on preserving open space, and where we can redevelop what we can, upgrade what we can, reuse existing buildings. But that's basically it. I'm 100% for this. And I also applaud the Clausens because I'm assuming they're probably getting offers from developers. And I know that, you know, preserving that property is very important to them as well. So thank you, because I know this wasn't an easy thing to come to the table with, but thanks.
Thank you. Can we get the next question?
Please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question.
Colin Quinn, 265 North Main Street. I just want to thank you all, thank the council, thank the mayor. I think that this is a very attractive and a very imaginative approach to some of the concerns recently about overdevelopment. And I'd echo a lot of what people have said earlier. This is a piece of space that my guess is almost everybody in town has interacted with in some shape or form, either going to Homestead or falling down the hill at some point during a snowstorm. I guess the only comment I would add is that one of the reasons why so many people love living in this area is that previous generations have gone out of their way to make sure that open space is preserved, buildings are preserved. This is an opportunity for us to do the same thing for the people who will succeed us in this town. This property, if preserved, will be there long after arguments, the current arguments in town are long since resolved and forgotten. So once again, thank you very much.
Can we get the next question?
Sure. Jacqueline, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Middleton, 251 North Union Street, Lambertville. I just want to say that I strongly support the acquisition of this piece for open space, or at least the vacant portions of it for open space. Open space is an important resource for any town, and especially in a small, densely populated city like Lambertville. I'm the land acquisition director of the Hunterdon Land Trust, and our mission is to preserve open space and farmland. And I see firsthand every day how open space and parks have a positive impact on municipalities, conservation resources, and most importantly, the citizens themselves, especially when towns prioritize open space and parks. So I appreciate this effort, and I'll do anything I can do to help.
Thank you, and I really appreciate all of the expert knowledge you've given the council and myself over the last several weeks as we've been working towards this goal. So I appreciate your time.
Lambertville resident, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Richard Green, 35 Lambert Lane, Lambertville, New Jersey. Regarding the current real estate market for new development, what interest has been expressed from other parties in purchasing the Clausen property? And is there a reason why we are paying the asking price? And have we negotiated with the Clausens on the price of the land? Also, I just heard a previous caller from the Land Trust talk about the value of this, and I agree that open space is certainly a value for me, and it certainly was demonstrated in a recent survey that was conducted with the citizens of Lambertville, hosted by LU. But my question is, how much of your modeling is based on assumptions that are not yet reality? It is my understanding that Green Acres funding, for example, over all of these years has accumulated approximately about $75,000 that's available for the down payment, which is extremely modest. And my question is, how much more of the Green Acres funding or the land trust monies can we expect, okay, to fund this acquisition? Also, as you know, the 2.9 million is merely the purchase price or the price of admission. Have we budgeted for the maintenance, the improvements, the infrastructure? I don't know whether there's public sewage, whether there's public water, what kind of utility services in the property, if we plan to use it for the police department site. And if we are planning to use it for the police department site, I think the Flemington, New Jersey example where they were attempting to move their police station to another site, the cost in terms of current regulation was upwards of $5 million, and they abandoned the proposal. So while in spirit, and I believe in this project, and I believe in moving to keep and maintain open space, I don't want to see the people in Lambertville straddled with taxation that's going to force our elderly, young families, and others out of the city. So my concern is for the people and not the principle of trying to maintain open space. And I really want to ask one final question is that while everybody has claimed that there's wide public support for this investment, how do we know this to be true? I know that Lambertville United conducted a survey that would indicate otherwise. It may or may not be representative of the entire town, but to resolve the discrepancy of opinion, why not put this up for a referendum? You know, the next opportunity is in March. That's, I think,
Sir, that's 3 minutes. So we can answer the question. I'm going to ask you to wrap up here.
okay, just why not put it for a referendum in March, our next opportunity for public voting in New Jersey? Thank you.
Okay, just really briefly here, my modeling doesn't reflect any Green Acres funding. This is all of that modeling based on taxation actually is wildly conservative. Again, we have only, that doesn't include any potential Green Acres funding, county funding, or other sources of funding that could help to refund the money. That is just if we pay for it with a bond out of pocket. So that answers your first question. The second question here is maintenance. We're looking to spend, after the acquisition of this property, we're looking to spend the open space money, which was a referendum from the community of Lambertville for either the acquisition of open space or the maintenance of open space to maintain not only the Clausen property, but also the Cherry Street lot and the hill above Ely Field in order to make sure that we're maintaining the open space that we've acquired. The third is that I've heard this Flemington thing over and over again. We based our modeling off of Delaware Township and New Hope, both of which had what's called adaptive reuse projects of their police stations. Delaware Township, which again is a Hunterdon County town, was able to move their police station into a residential building for under $700,000, which included the acquisition of the property. And then finally, this property is on the open real estate market. If we wait and do a referendum, there's a potential chance that we will lose access to the property and it'll be sold to somebody else. So I don't think that is a risk worth taking, but it's up to the governing body tonight to make a decision on whether or not we should move forward on that acquisition.
Well, we could have the first right of refusal, you know, so.
So I'm sorry,
I mean, we certainly could position our offer, you know.
Excuse me.
I mean, if there's competitive offers, we should know about it. I mean, who's the agent representing the property and how much activity has been on the property?
There's already been another letter of interest, as far as we know. So anyway, thank you, Council President. Are there any other comments from the governing body?
Mayor, I just think it might be helpful for Bill to clarify some of the specifics on what we're voting on tonight, and that it includes the do not exceed and all of that, because I think that there was some the caller made mention of the purchase price being set at the listing price and all that. So could you just provide some clarity there, please?
Sure. The ordinance sets a not to exceed price. That's what the price in the ordinance is the price that the property is listed for. There's been negotiations between the city and the Clausens, and if the city, the governing body decides to go forward, then the contract price that's ultimately there will reflect that there was negotiation between the city and the Clausen family.
Okay, if that's it, let's go to the next question.
Doug, please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question.
Yeah, hi, Doug Graver, 406 Surgeon Drive in Lambertville. You know, I first want to say that I'm really happy, Mayor Fall, that you brought up what was said about you. I wasn't aware of it, but I do think
Doug, I'm sorry to interrupt you here. I just want to make sure we're following the rules for everybody. If you can just stick to the Clausen property, and then if you'd like to say something at the end, I appreciate the support,
Sure,
but I want to make sure the rules are clear.
that's fine. That's fine. So every time I drive by this property, I keep envisioning some large townhouse development on the Clausen property, and it's just really bothers me. All the years that I've lived in this town, preserving open space has always been a priority, and I'm baffled why there's at least a lot of criticism about it online. I'm hearing less here tonight, so I'm happy about that. But it's always been a priority in this town. There's so few spaces available now. So I'm very much in favor of this. And I'm just baffled. You know, it's a beautiful piece of property in town, and I would really hate to see another townhouse development open up there. And I think the resistance to it, whatever there is very short-sighted. Preserving open space is vitally important. And I'm grateful to the Clausens for their willingness to delay any sale in the ends of the town taking this over. So that's all. Thank you.
Jordan, please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Jeanette Jordan from 16 South Union Street. Also a fan of open spaces and very much a fan of the idea of an opportunity to preserve this property, but do see a lot of concerns around fiscal and administrative responsibility, you know, for the next year and the many, many years to come, when we're going to have to take care of this property, maintain it, administer it. You've had a lot of great ideas of how to use the property, but that all requires administrative oversight and additional burden, if you will, to the leadership and the employees of the city. So that's my concern. Again, love the idea of being able to preserve this property, but we're talking about a very long time of property to take care of. My questions, you mentioned that you want to pay for the maintenance, ongoing maintenance of the facility with open space dollars. I assume that not all of the maintenance is going to qualify for open space money, since it's not all open space. So there are other areas that we're going to have to maintain, and I haven't seen any budget for what that would look like yet. I'm curious to know, once we go into exclusivity, you've made a point that we have several months to figure this out. But once we go into exclusivity, you know, what's on the line? What do we lose if we back away, if we decide it's not fiscally responsible for us to move forward or administratively feasible? What do we lose by going forward now with exclusivity? And then as far as the open space money goes, if I'm reading the 2019 audit correctly, that tax for 2019 was $78,000 that we collected. We spent $118,000. So the fund balance is $77,000. So if we're going to use open space money all for the Clausen farm, what were we spending it on before that we're not going to be spending it on anymore? And finally, my last comment is just, I hear you saying that we are divorcing the conversation of Clausen from the other facilities by popular demand. But when we're talking about tax dollars and bonding and planning the next 20 years, you still have to think about it all. You can't just ignore it. So those are my comments and questions.
Okay, thank you. So I'll answer those in order. The maintenance for the open space that we can use for open space tax would be for the open space. That's correct. The goal of the city over the next 6 months is to finalize a plan for the use of those buildings, that they would not be a part of the responsibility of the city, that they would be owned by either a not-for-profit or a for-profit entity that would be required to maintain those buildings. The second is that we are still in negotiations with the Clausens and have not finalized our contract. So this is subject to negotiation. But what is sort of on the line is the down payment of our of $75,000 paid out over 3 periods. So that the first 2 months of due diligence, which is when a lot of our due diligence is going to happen, we have sort of a total full refund, and then 1/3 of that hardens every 2 months over the course of the 6-month due diligence period. So the longer that we sort of move into this process, the more of the down payment that we lose, plus the cost of the studies, which we are budgeting at this time for a little over $200,000. So that's the answer for what are we losing out on. In terms of the open space, your calculation, I think, is doesn't sort of show the full picture. we levy $77,000 a year in open space taxes. We currently have Cindy. This is the last note that I have on this. I'm not quite sure that this is right, but I believe it's $283,000 in available open space funds. We've previously used that for other open space projects like acquisition of the Cherry Street lot. We want to move that towards, because this is the second to last sort of undeveloped lot in the city. We want to move towards the maintenance of the places that we have already used open space taxes to acquire. That would be things like leaf and brush mowing, mowing, leaf and brush pickup, the sort of general maintenance of the outdoor space. Again, the maintenance of the buildings we're working to remove from the responsibility of the city. And then finally, I really appreciated your comment at the last meeting, and we took that comment into account when we were doing our financial planning. We not only added on the capital expenditures for sort of the annual capital budgeting that we would need to do over the next 30 years, but the Clausens and our debt service. And we've been talking with the community advisory team about our need for major investment in our facilities as well. So to your point, I couldn't agree with you more. This isn't going to be done in a vacuum. And I think we've done our due diligence on proving that this is still financially feasible, while being able to sort of continue in the larger context of our borrowing needs. Is there anybody else who has any comments from council?
Just one note.
Councilman Sanders, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. The $77,000 is the current value of the assessments that are tied to that, but it's ultimately tied to valuation. So that number could change. It would likely go up in future years. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I think it's worth noting that we intend to RFP out for those maintenance services, that we don't expect that to be a part of our public works moving forward. Okay, can we get the next question?
Sure. Jack, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Hi, I'm Jack Ludwig, 27 Jefferson here in Lambertville. I think this is a great demonstration of creative government and listening to the population, in the sense that, overdevelopment, the buzzword overdevelopment is bandied about, and taking advantage of this unique open space, helps that along, and shows that this council and this mayor is listening to the people of this city. So I'm grateful for that. And I think the other point I'd like to make is the alternative to this is not good, as several people on this call has said. If this becomes an annex to the Orleans site or something like that, that would really, not change the whole entryway into the north end of the city, and that wouldn't be a good outcome. One thing that I would suggest, though, to the mayor and council is possibly during the 6 months investigating into mixed use of the already developed property. So as I saw map, approximately 2 acres are developed and 6 acres are open space. I wouldn't suggest that we encroach on the open space, maybe a little bit. But still, we have to solve the problem of our tax debt. And there still has to be some kind of additional development and additional ratables in the city coming online in the next years. I think the budget you presented is a little bit rosy and a little bit tight. I think 300,000 for capital improvements is kind of tight. And I think there will be more, and we should prepare for the unpredicted. But overall, I'm in support of this. We don't have many open spaces to preserve in our 1 square mile city. So I'm grateful for the time and effort that's gone into this, and I'm supportive of the project. And hopefully all those that are carrying the banner of no overdevelopment are also in support of this kind of project. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to answer the one question you had here, we intend to, over the next 6 months, work with the community advisory team and the community to talk about how we can use the non-preserved space to the best of our abilities. I've heard some interesting ideas, right? Like a co-op dog park, community gardens, access for, open for community gathering space. All of that will be worked out over the next 6 months and, addressed to ensure that, again, we keep a tight budget on this project, that there's no direct tax impact. But I agree with you. There's lots more to work on to ensure that we are, that we're using this property to the best of our abilities. Okay, Tina, can I get the next caller?
Yes. Clinton resident, please state your full name and address to the record, then proceed with your comment or question.
Hi, Charlie Zorn at 17 Clinton Street. And I have a question going back to the PowerPoint presentation. As we looked at the debt service and best debt service or best practice, I'm wondering if we didn't have this obligation, how quickly would the city be able to achieve being below that best practice line that you had illustrated on the PowerPoint?
The answer is 2029 instead of 2031.
Only 1 year?
2 years.
2 years? Okay. And if in your calculations, is there any indication of the effect that would be had on the school tax for the city because of decreased ratables or what have you?
The Claussens currently pay $23,000 a year in taxes, 4,111 or 4,117 of that goes to the municipality. Vast majority of that goes to the school, but it is under $20,000.
Okay, and I wonder, going back to the slide program, Julia, I wonder if it would be possible if you could illustrate that on the slides that might be available to the community in the next day or so, what the impact would be if we didn't have the expenditure.
Certainly, my slides will be available to the public beginning tomorrow. They should have been done today, but I had a little bit of a crazy day.
I mean, would you be able to illustrate the slide that would show if there was no borrowing, what that effect would be?
Yeah, can everybody see my screen here?
Yes.
So that's what this is right here. This is just our current funded debt schedule, the best practice line year over year, assuming a 2% increase in budgeting, our current tax line here. This is where, can everybody see my pointer?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, to Charlie's point, though, it might be helpful to do a small edit before posting where we kind of like circle where we need it in terms of the.
I see. We can circle it here and then you can note here that it's that we meet that best practice line in 2030. So we meet that best practice line in 2033. So, but yes, I can make that edit and put those circles up so it's more clear moving forward. And I appreciate the note.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we have 2 more questions.
Stephanie, please state your full name and address into the record, then please proceed with your comment or question.
Stephanie Moss, 12 Delavan. I just want to say that I'm really happy to support this project. I think open space is extremely important in any community, and this will definitely do that for us. It's a perfect place for it to happen. And if we don't move forward and want to have with the Claussens and make this agreement, we have no idea what will be developed on that hill. Obviously, it can be developed and would be developed. So I'm in total support, and I appreciate all that you guys have done, both the CAT and the council and the mayor. Thank you.
Nancy,
Thank you.
Nancy, please state your full name and address into the record, then proceed with your comment. Nancy, please unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. It's my husband actually commenting. We're together.
Hi, Jeff Campbell, 31 York Street. I wanted to really congratulate the City Council on moving quickly and thoroughly on this opportunity. I know there are a lot of issues. You've identified a lot of issues, and I think you're approaching it in a way that creates flexibility going forward, but allows us to take advantage of the great opportunity to acquire this property. I also just wanted to say, because not a lot has been said about it, the open space is a tremendous benefit, but also the historic quality of this property. You know, there are very few properties in the state of New Jersey that have hosted George Washington twice during the Revolutionary War. And that is part of Lambertville's heritage that would be a tragedy to lose. So I really support what the City Council is doing here in trying to fully explore the opportunities to wisely and prudently incorporate this into the public lands.
Thank you.
I did know that as Nancy. We're here together.
The only thing I'd like to say here is to further, respond to that is that this is an opportunity for us not just to preserve that portion of property, but also to make it available to the public. Okay, I think we have one more question, Tina.
Yes, Rich and Mary, please state your names and proceed with your comment or question. You are unmuted.
I think we lost them.
Nope.
We're here, sorry. Can you hear me now? Yes. This is Rich and Mary Friedman, and we are 100% for this project. And I kind of want to piggyback onto what Nancy and Jeff Campbell said. A lot of what we've talked about tonight is preserving open space, which is absolutely, I believe, necessary in the city. But I also don't want to lose sight of the importance of the Washington's headquarters house. And I am, very involved in the Historical Society, and just want to, I know that's not something that can be done before you make your decisions tonight, but I just want to go on record making sure that we don't lose sight of that importance. And Rich and I will do anything we can when the time is right to help with that part of the process. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for all the work you've been doing.
Thank you. And I just want to let the public know that we are working to meet with the Historic Society this week, and we look forward to partnering with them on this other really important part of this project, which is the preservation and maintenance of a historic landmark in our community.
And Mayor, can I just add a thank you to Mary and Rich for wanting to also volunteer to support that effort. Volunteers are critical to getting this work done, whether it's the CAT, the Historical Society, or just other folks that aren't already involved that want to volunteer on this effort or others.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Council President, can I get a second?
Second.
Councilman Sanders, can I get an all in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Council President, can I push this back over to you for the next step?
Yes, so ordinance number 14-2020, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of property located at 260 North Main Street, block 1002, lot 41, and authorizing the execution of agreements in connection. So I would like to get a motion to do a second reading on this ordinance number 14-2020.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Urbish. Thank you, Councilman Sanders. And Cindy, could we please get a roll call?
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor, Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to take a second before we move on here to thank the CAT and all of the volunteers who have made all this. We did an incredible amount of due diligence functionally for free through the work of our community members. And I want to thank every single person who has been diligently meeting with me for the last 4 weeks, often in the rain, as we clomped around the Clausen's property to make this possible. And I want to thank all the members of council who have been committed to working on this project. Okay, Council President, would you mind moving towards ordinance number 17?
All right, we had to introduce and do a first reading for ordinance number 17-2020, a bond ordinance to fund professional services and commission work related to the purchase of the Clausen property, block 1002, lot 41. And I'd like to ask for a motion to introduce this on first reading.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Sanders. Second, do we have a second?
Second.
Is that you, Councilwoman Taylor?
Councilwoman Taylor.
Councilwoman Taylor, thank you. So Cindy, if you could please do a roll call vote.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, we're moving on to ordinance number 13 for the second reading and public hearing. And want to open the public hearing. Did you want me to read the title, or how do you want to jump into that?
Would you mind reading the title and then we'll remind everybody what we're doing here?
Of course, ordinance number 13-2020, ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $438,000 or such other amount certified by the Director of the Division of Local Government Services for the purposes set forth in NJSA 40A:4-53L and or NJSA 40A:4-53M in and by the city of Lambertville, County of Hunterdon, New Jersey.
Thank you, Council President. Just as a quick reminder here, this is basically just a tool that was provided to us from an act of the legislature to help municipalities that did not receive CARES Act funding because of their size or the county that we were in, both of which we were excluded for, in order to help with COVID-19 related shortfalls in revenue, as well as COVID-19 related expenditures. In the first hearing, in the first reading, we had our CFO come on and explain how this emergency works. It was then approved by the Division of Local Government Services. And so we are going to move forward with the reading, public hearing, and then ultimately this is just to spread the pain of COVID over 5 years rather than having this burden the taxpayers in FY 2021. So with that, we'll open up the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments regarding ordinance number 13?
One clarification, Mayor. Did you say that the Division of Local Governmental Services had reviewed and vetted and approved our submission for 438? Or
I believe that's true. Yes. So we had to, between the introduction, they had an opportunity to come back and ticky-tacky with us about the amount. They approved the amount that we had originally set forth in our first reading.
Okay. I wanted to, I know Chris isn't on our CFO, but he made himself available and answered questions that I had. So I just wanted to acknowledge his time.
Yeah. Yes, we were one of the first municipalities to move forward on this, and we owe a lot to Chris for being right on the forefront of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, one other point I would just make, I also spoke with Chris, he was very helpful. I did not understand that the division had approved our amount, but I don't dispute that fact. What I think is important for folks to remember is that the final amount won't get determined for another month or so until we can close the books, because the division wants to make sure we don't borrow any more than we need to. So just so people understand, there's the potential for the amount to go down if we have more revenue than we thought.
That's correct. This is a not to exceed. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, are there questions or comments from the community? Tina, are there any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance number 13?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, can I get a, oh, actually, Council President, would you mind doing this so that it's all the same?
Yes, I'd like to get a roll call vote for closing the public hearing. Cindy, please.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right, now we'd like to go ahead and do a vote on the ordinance. Can I get a motion to vote on the ordinance now?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Taylor.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Sanders. And Cindy, could you please do a roll call for that?
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right. So we're going on to resolution number 148 -2020, a resolution authorizing the issuance of special emergency notes in an amount equal to the special emergency appropriation made for the purposes set forth in NJSA 40A4-53L or NJSA 40A4-53M in and by the city of Lambertville in the county of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey. So this supports the ordinance that we just voted on, Mayor, yes?
That's correct. Yeah, it's functionally just a resolution backing up the ordinance we just passed.
Okay.
And we don't need a public hearing on it. I believe we can just make a motion. Mr. Opal, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I get a motion then for resolution number 148?
So moved.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Second.
Councilwoman Taylor, and Cindy, could you please do a roll call vote for us?
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a public hearing and second reading for a handicap spot. Ordinance number 15, an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City General Ordinances 2014 to include a handicap parking spot in front of 29 North Franklin Street. So I'd like to ask if there's any questions from the council first before we open the public hearing.
This handicap spot has been checked by Lieutenant Brown and Lester for compliance and
right,
what have you.
So moved.
Second.
I do believe, I think we need to open for public.
We just got
comment.
to go through the public hearing. We may not have any questions, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
that's okay. Just open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public on this ordinance? Tina?
I do not see any hands up.
All right. So I would like to, what would I like to do right now?
Close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Thank you, Bill.
The Mulligan, yes, yeah. Second.
Okay. Can you do a roll call, Cindy, please?
Yes, who made that motion? I'm sorry.
It was Sanders and
Got it. Councilman Sanders,
yes.
Sure. But I heard it first.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
She said yes.
Yeah.
We might be having some connectivity issues here.
Oh, wow.
Clerk.
Yes, she's frozen.
Would you like me to do the roll?
Yeah,
call?
Bill, does it have to be our council, our
clerk?
Our clerk can,
No, we can do the roll call.
okay.
Council President, if you'd like to
so
do it.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Your video is frozen, but we can hear you.
Oh, no. now we can't.
Oh,
Here we go. There she is.
Sorry about that. I got kicked out again. Okay, so I have Councilman Sanders, Councilwoman Taylor, Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right. So we want to go ahead and vote on the ordinance now. Can I get a motion to introduce that?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Second.
And Councilman Sanders. Okay. Cindy, if you could please do a roll call on to voting on the ordinance number 15.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right. So we've got another one to do with parking. We've got a few of these tonight. Ordinance number 16, an ordinance to amend the general code of the city of Lambertville, Chapter 7, Traffic Section 4.5, parking limited on certain streets to remove and replace the free 2 parking spaces with meters on the southwest side of Bridge Street. Replace that with a 20-minute maximum time limit, Sunday through Saturday. So I'd like to open the public hearing. But before we do so, are there any questions from council on this one?
Just a quick reminder for folks who didn't join us last time, there were meters taken off next to the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is no longer there. We want to put the meters back up. Let's open for public comment.
So far, no hands are raised.
All right, so let's close the public hearing. I need a motion to do that.
So moved.
Councilman
Second.
Sanders. And who's
Second.
Taylor? Sanders, Taylor, and if you could please do a roll call vote, Cindy, to close the public hearing.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we need to go ahead now and just vote on the ordinance. Could I get a motion to vote on the ordinance?
So moved.
Sanders,
Second.
was that
Urbish.
Maddie?
Mhm.
Urbish. Okay, if we could please go ahead and do a roll call vote, Cindy.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right. On to ordinance number 19, an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 7, Section 407, parking restricted for use by handicapped persons to add handicap parking in front of 34 Perry Street. And this is the first reading. So Mayor, can we assume that that Lester and Lieutenant Brown have looked this over?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So I've read it in by title. So I'd like to ask for a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 19.
So moved.
Okay, Sanders
Second.
and Taylor. And Cindy, if you could please do a roll call vote on ordinance number 19.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
The public hearing for that is scheduled for December 17th, just FYI. All right, so ordinance number 18, last of the evening. Ordinance of the City of Lambertville, County of Hunterdon, State of New Jersey, adopting the police station tract redevelopment plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A 12A-1, etc. I'd like to ask for a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 18.
So moved.
Urbish,
Second.
Taylor. All right, if Cindy, if you could do a roll call vote, please, on ordinance number 18, first reading.
Councilman Sanders, Councilman Sanders,
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor,
Yes.
Councilwoman Urbish,
Yes.
Council President Sarah,
Yes.
Mayor Fall.
Yes.
All right, Mayor, so it's on to you for announcements then.
Couple of things really quickly. I hope that everybody had a safe and relatively small Thanksgiving holiday. I want to, the city is going, there's been a significant spike of COVID-19 in our community and across the state in the last several weeks. And we expect to see that spike continue, that trend continue as, the holidays press on. The city is considering going back to mostly remote work in order to reduce the risk to our employees. We'll be rolling out that information over the course of the next several days as we look at how we can continue to provide a similar level of service, but make sure that our employees are safe. I also, we've waived all of the fees related to the tents inspections being for businesses to ensure that our businesses aren't further penalized for the outdoor dining that's going to continue into the winter. We have the dates for our annual tree lighting and menorah lighting, but those, because of the increased risk for COVID-19, we are in conversations with those planners to and may potentially cancel or make those digital events. We're going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. And then the only other thing that I have is that our committees, commissions, we are looking for applications for folks who are interested in joining a committee, commission, or board. We had a record number of people apply last year. We would love to get more submissions over the next several weeks, and you can email myself or Council President Acero with your level of interest. With that, are there any other statements from the board, updates or statements from the board? Hearing none, can we open up for general public comment?
Yes, just so you know, Tina's lost power.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Cindy, are you still able to?
Yep. Sure. So Marcia, we have Marcia with her hand up. Marcia, would you please state your full name and address for the record and then proceed with your question or comment?
I think she has to be promoted.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I just, as a resident of Lambertville and a great supporter of the work of all of the council and of the mayor in particular, I just wanted to react to the mayor's courage in bringing up the horrific comments that were put on Facebook recently. And I know that sadly enough, those are not, that's not just a recent event. In fact, I'm not sure when it started, to be honest with you. But there's been a tenor of hateful language in the last, I don't know, X number of months, maybe more, over a year, that is inexplicable to me as a member of this community. Someone else mentioned earlier tonight, Lambertville United, and I can't help but notice the correlation between their desire to spread incorrect information and sway people from the truth at the same time that these hateful things are being said on Facebook. So I would just like to be very clear to you, Mayor, that what you've heard tonight, all the voices you heard tonight were in support of you, whether they will admit it or not. All of the voices tonight recognize what an incredible job you're doing, what an incredible job the council in general is doing. And thankfully, actions speak louder than words. And your actions, by helping this city preserve an incredible open space, among your many other accomplishments with the board, is what really matters. So I hope you're able to put those words behind you. And I would just argue that if there were any law that could be brought to bear having to do with hate speech, if the president can be censored on Twitter, then these people most certainly can have their voices shut down if they are engaging in hate speech. So I would like that to be pursued as well. But I mostly just want to support the mayor and the council. I am stunned by what an excellent job you do. And I'm absolutely, as I said, deeply confused that anyone would want to bring any hateful language into this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy, can we get the next question asker?
Joe Donnelly, can you please state your name for the record and address, and then your comment or question? I'm having trouble with him, allowing him to talk.
Cindy, I think Marcia is still elevated at this time and Joe needs to be elevated instead.
I see that. I'm just having.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, only the council's on camera.
You know what, Beth? Are you a host?
I don't know.
If somebody can make me a host, I can elevate folks.
No, I'm not. If I was, I'd be able to give it to somebody, but I don't have it. If everyone could just check their buttons and see who is still on. So
There we go.
Marcia, you're still elevated and your
Hello.
mic is open, just so you know.
Thanks very much.
You can mute yourself if you need to.
I can't.
You can't.
There you go. Okay, and Joe, you're muted. You're muted if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself.
Can I be heard now?
Yes.
Awesome. I apparently haven't lost my magic. I regret I had to check out during the Clausen hearing. I had one question. And that is that I heard the word historic preservation many times. So my question is, what besides the Holcomb House is historic about that property?
So the land itself, the undeveloped land itself, is historic in nature. There is some historic value to one of the barns, but besides that, it's really just the Holcomb House that has the significant historic preservation project. The rest of it is just land preservation.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get the next caller?
Karen Conlon, can you please state your full name and address for the record, and then ask your question or make your comment?
Sure, thanks. Karen Conlon, North Union Street, Lambertville. Quick question for the council. What have you guys done, or have you worked with the Chamber of Commerce to encourage citizens to shop locally during the holidays? Because I know that, retail is really hurting right now, and we have a lot of shops in town that are hurting. And I was just wondering what the city's doing to encourage people to solicit our local businesses.
Respond to that. The council has been working with the chamber pretty closely since the summer, and trying to work out an appropriate division of labor, but we certainly want to be encouraging people to shop local. There was an effort put forth by the businesses themselves this summer to offer people a discount. So once you bought something at one shop, you could get a discount at another shop. The businesses decided to stop that. I recently heard actually about something put forth by Lambertville United that is intended to support people shopping locally. So yes, there are efforts going on about shopping locally, efforts to help make sure that downtown looks nice for the holidays and for the shopping season, and really just trying to capitalize on a lot of really great volunteers who I want to just say thank you to all the people who've stepped up with their time and other resources to help support the business community. And I'll just say I see that Stephen Harris from the chamber is on, so if he has anything else to add, I would encourage him to raise his hand and comment, but thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor, can I go back just to the notion of public comment? Because I just did, I just want to, I think that this is understood, but I want it to be very clear that, you know, as public figures, you know, there should be scrutiny of how we think about our jobs. There should be an opportunity for comment. There should be an opportunity for criticism. There's clearly a line, however, and I think everyone understands that, but I just, as we talk about this, I want to make sure that we're not seeking to insulate ourselves from appropriate criticism, but clearly there is language and tenor and inappropriate comments. I'm not familiar with the comments that you're talking about, but you know, there are lines that I've seen that have been crossed, and it's disappointing that public discourse, you know, in Lambertville, nationally, and so forth is where it is. I just, but I want to make sure that folks understand that we're not trying to insulate ourselves from appropriate criticism that's talked about in a respectful fashion. So I want to make sure that that's understood as we move forward here.
I appreciate the comment, Councilman. I think, you know, there has been quite a bit of criticism of my administration, of the council, some of it deserved. And, you know, I welcome that. I think, you know, as in the terms of Lyndon B. Johnson, the best decisions are made by a team of rivals. It's good for us to have an active, you know, active critical thought happening in our community, particularly because our community is so well versed in so many different areas. But to be clear, you know, there has been, it's not just, this is not the first time that the line has been stepped so far beyond the bounds. And there's just comes a point where I couldn't not talk about it. I'll be writing an op-ed soon. You can look for it in the New Hope Free Press.
Okay, so we have Clinton Street resident with your hand up. Please state your name, your full name and address for the record, and ask your question or make your comment.
Yes, Lily Chen, 17 Clinton Street. I just want to make a comment, and it's really in response to some of the comments that I heard tonight, attacking citizens like myself that may not agree with the policies of the administration, and the fact that, yes, I am part of Lambertville United, so I do take great offense to the comment the woman, I think her name was Marcia, made, which was kind of leading to give the impression all this divisiveness and hate and anger and whatever is going on is all because of Lambertville United. I take great offense to that, because the people I work with are not the people that you claim that are calling your house or doing whatever it is that they're doing. They do not do that. We do not do that. I don't know who's doing that. What we do is we provide an opportunity for people who, like right now, the survey, I'm really disappointed that that was dismissed by the council and by the mayor, because we unfortunately could not reach the group that do not have internet. And they wanted to participate, but because of COVID, I had to tell them I cannot have people going door to door. So it was a very limited, and we launched it last week. And within a few days, we were able to pull some results to just give you an impression of the fact that there is a large percentage of this community that want their voices heard. They feel this is going too fast for them. They don't understand what the implications will be for them financially in the future. And they want an opportunity to have a better understanding. And they felt it was going too fast. And I agree with them. It is going too fast. I'm having a hard time keeping track with how are we affording this? What are we giving up in order to afford this in the next 10 years? What money could be used?
Really, that's your 3-minute time limit, if you wouldn't mind wrapping up.
All right. Well, I'm just saying I resent the fact that you point the fingers at the people that might oppose you, and they're just not the people I work with. I've questioned people on how they conduct themselves, and everyone said they can't believe anyone they know would do the things that you're accusing us of. And
I'm sorry, your time limit is up here. Would anybody from the council like to comment? Hearing none, can we move to the next comment?
I just I did see the survey results. It was just from my own perspective, it was not something that I discounted. I did have some correspondence even before I saw the results, though, that survey instruments are challenging, and you know, they're done by professionals for reasons. And I think it was, I applaud the effort of trying to get input, and I appreciate the, you know, the results. Yeah, I also talked to a lot of folks, got a lot of emails, and heard from folks tonight. So I certainly did discount it. I took it for you know, an effort to provide input. So I just wanted to be clear. It wasn't something I just discounted, but.
Yeah, Councilman, I'd just like to add to that. I didn't discount it. I don't know where that comment is coming from. I did see it and review it. You know, I have training in surveying and polling, and so there's definitely some questions and concerns I have about the specific poll. I think that you know, there's going to be a lot of really good opportunity for community engagement and feedback as this continues. We're sort of at the beginning of it. And I think it would be helpful too, when asking questions about a particular issue, to provide a base level of information. The city has posted the financial information and some FAQs. You know, since the ordinance was adopted tonight, more information will be shared in the coming weeks. But again, I think providing appropriate information and asking the appropriate questions. There is a science to this. It is political science, I think is important. And there's a lot of people in Lambertville that have expertise in this area. So I would encourage folks to tap into that.
Councilwoman Urbish, I'm going to just step in here really quickly. Cindy, if you wouldn't mind promoting Sarah Gold. I know the CAT had some recent, I had released a letter recently about this, and I know that they're planning on doing a survey, and I'd love to be able to sort of just, you know, direct some questions or comments regarding methodology of how we're surveying the public moving forward. So Sarah, thank you for being on call tonight. Can you just talk a little bit about what the CAT plans to do in terms of surveying the community, and how how that would work in a way to address this resident's concern?
Yeah, definitely. So the CAT, obviously a big part of what we've been doing over the last 6 months has been gathering community input, and we created some surveys that were implemented over the summer. I am trained as a researcher. I have my PhD in social work, and so I've taken a lot of methods courses and created surveys before. So this is something I really enjoy doing. And what we're planning on doing is conducting a survey of the full community. So it'll be something that we'll reach out to everybody in the community as we did over the summer. So this includes wide swaths of people, including, in addition to people who might not have internet access, reaching out to renters, people who've been in the city for a long period of time, a short period of time. Basically, we're trying to get a representative sample of who lives in the community. And we also think that it's really important to ensure that we know who's answering the survey so that we can follow up if needed. So we'll ask for, and also to ensure that we're getting responses from Lambertville residents. So we'll ask for everybody's name and addresses, but really the substance of this survey is what is super important to us as the CAT. And we want to understand the community's values and what their interests are in terms of the Clausen site. And so we'll have some open-ended questions to kind of really be able to capture a fuller picture in addition to multiple choice questions, to really capture what the community's interests, concerns, and values are in regards to the site.
And Sarah, just really quickly for my own edification, because I have never taken a methods course. You know, you'd mentioned open-ended questions. What's the process of ensuring that the questions that are asked as a part of this survey don't lead to skewed results?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So part of what we've been trying to do, kind of along the lines of what Councilwoman Urbish was saying, is really ensuring that we're all operating based on the same facts. And so the CAT has already been engaging in Q&As with the council and with the mayor. We'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to disseminate information. And then we'll ask questions based on those facts. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
It does. Yeah. Thank you. And I guess the last question that I have here is, you know, obviously we've been stressing tonight that we've got 6 months to sort of work with community. Can you just talk really briefly about some of the other plans that the CAT has to ensure that we're hearing not just from folks who are here tonight, but from, you know, the largest swath of our community possible?
Sure. Yeah. So in the past, we've done outreach via email, Facebook, letters to the public that have actually been received physically in the mail. So we'll do all of those same things. We're also planning, in addition to the survey, we'll continue doing Q&As. We'll probably plan on doing kind of like the design vetting meeting that we had done in September. We'll plan on doing another community meeting. This might be something that's in partnership with council to really have some of these more in-depth conversations with our neighbors that I know we all really miss right now when we're in such a period of isolation.
All right, great. Are there any questions from the council regarding the community advisory team's next steps for community outreach? Okay, Sarah, I really appreciate your time on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have one more question, Cindy.
We have 2 more, Alicia Lerman, and then we have a Lambertville resident, prior was Clinton. So with that, Alicia, I'm going to allow you to talk. Will you please state your name and address for the record, as well as your question or comment?
Hi, Alicia Lerman, 101 East Blair Track. I have a couple of different comments. The first one is I really think that we're still looking at things a bit piecemeal still. Police station on one side, Clausen property on another thing. I really think that we need to look at things holistically across the city. And while the council doesn't deal with the school board, I also think we need to really look at the things that are coming up with the school board and the potential for issues coming up with that development that are also going to impact us as taxpayers. One thought that I had, I'd like to ask the CAT maybe to take a look at with respect to the Clausen and police is potentially could we move the police station to Lilly Mansion and the library up to the Clausen property as we develop that as one way to kind of to look at that as an opportunity. I have some concerns still about city services. The challenge that we seem to have with maintaining our city equipment, the sweepers, the garbage trucks, et cetera, in terms of getting vegetative maintenance done. I'm still waiting for a response. I appreciate everything that Cindy Eggy's done to help move this along. Things that used to get done on a regular basis on my street, still been waiting 4 months now, haven't gotten done. So, you know, there's still a lot of things going on. The last thing I'd like to reiterate what Lily said to Marcia's comment, you know, Lambertville United, just residents deeply concerned, looking to make our city the best that it can be, trying to get the facts, not alternative facts out there, and trying to work together so that we have a great place to live and we continue to have a great place to live. So, you know, we should try to work together and really listen and hear each other and hear the information. So thanks. That's my comments.
Okay, so just a couple of quick things here. I feel like we've done a lot of due diligence in looking at this not as a piecemeal issue, but looking at a 25 to 30 year projection of borrowing versus our current capital maintenance. The second is we've been working, Alicia, I know Lieutenant Brown and Cindy have both been working with you. I had reached out to the mayor, Jim Calley of West Amwell, to borrow the brush clipper to address the concern on your street. We are working on it actively, and I have been involved in that process. We're waiting for them to pass their MOU at their next council meeting, and then we'll be able to address the brush concern on your street. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, we'd be looking to using that open space tax as a maintenance outside of the Public Works Department. So we would be putting out an RFP for open space maintenance services like leaf and brush pickup, which would be outside of our Public Works Department, and so not a part of the concern with the street sweeper, although again, that was also addressed earlier tonight. Were there any other comments from the council regarding that? Sarah, I saw your hand was raised as well, but I just want to make sure if there was anything else from the council.
I would just add, you know, I do think that we've had challenges on certain city maintenance issues, and it's something that, you know, I know that I have had conversations with city staff and the mayor about, as well as residents. And I understand any frustration that might be out there. I would just like to express that, you know, there are a number of people that are really trying to work on both immediate and long-term solutions here. And we appreciate folks' patience and understand the frustration. And, you know, I don't want it to sound like we don't recognize the issue and that folks aren't trying to work on some solutions there.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman Urbish. I really appreciate that. You know, with some of the issues that we're dealing with our Public Works Department is historic underinvestment in our infrastructure that happened, you know, over the course of several years. But that doesn't mean that we can't start working towards fixing it. And that's what we've been trying to do. We are, you know, working diligently to address those issues so that we can provide the city better service. Sarah, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to address a couple of the points that Alicia had made regarding the CAT, if that's okay. So Alicia, we do have a school board member who sits on the CAT, so we are integrating that feedback, and she's a valued and valuable member of the CAT. And then thank you for the suggestion regarding the library and Lily Mansion. We will look into that. Thank you.
Okay, can we get the last comment?
Cindy, it's Joe Donnelly.
Thank you, Joe. Go ahead and state your question or comment.
Just for the record, before, I wasn't sure that I gave you my address for your minutes. It's 50 Delaware Ave.
Thank you.
That's all. You bet.
Okay, so with that, I think that our public comment.
No, Lambertville resident hasn't gone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I know that you're in active litigation with your former business administrator, but I have to make a few comments.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Richard Green, 35 Lambert Lane, Lambertville, New Jersey. I wrote to each of the council people. Mayor, I did not include you on that correspondence. I have a couple of concerns. In Mr. Torpy's complaint, he said he was owed 57 days paid time off for a period of service of 1.3 years, which is the most egregious example of a giveaway that I've ever seen in my life. And I've worked 40 years in human resources and never saw an executive even with anything near that kind of paid time off benefit. So for 1.3 years of service, he has two months of paid time off. Unbelievable. I want to end it by saying this. If there is anything in his allegation that suggests or even comes near to you having said the most egregious things that to me are so self-loathing and homophobic around gay men in terms of referring to the D word I won't even say it on this call, but I want you to have a conversation with me because I don't know in your women's studies courses, and I'm sure you have taken them, okay, it is not appropriate for a man to objectify a woman and to say vulgar things about her body, and likewise, it would not be the same for you. And I really find it terribly offensive to what I read in his complaint. I don't know how many people on this call have. If you were guilty of that, you owe myself as a gay man and other gay men in this city and in the surrounding area an apology. And aside from the council taking all these other classes around compliance, I suggest you take a sensitivity and a diversity inclusion class. And I hate to be that blunt, but I was so shocked and horrified by what I read. And I don't know whether he's making up fantasy or whether it's reality, but I had to say it. And I'm sorry that I ended the meeting on this call with this statement, but I really am upset by it. I mean, truly, personally upset by it. I'm a feminist. I came out through the feminist movement in the 70s. My politics are all around parity, equality, and everything else. And what he is claiming is just so bad. I just don't have any words for it. Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly, I was also shocked when I read those claims, but I'll turn that over to Mr. Opal because we're in active litigation and I can't comment as a part of this, except to say that I'm a gay woman and I agree with you that those allegations are offensive.
And these are allegations in a complaint. The complaint is going to work its way through the legal process. And that's as far as it's appropriate for the city to discuss in this forum tonight. With regard to the initial part of the question regarding paid time off, the city's employee handbook is a public record and is readily available. And I believe any agreements that the city had with its employees, if there are any, those are publicly available as well, and those set forth, the paid time off for that employee. So I can refer you to that, but there's really nothing to discuss further with regard to the allegations in the complaint.
I have nothing to say.
Councilwoman Urbish, you had something to say? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, if that's all, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, it's Joe Donnelly. I just want to correct something you said that, Mayor, that was in reaction to Mr. Donnelly. The man speaking there was named Mr. Green.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just a little confused. There's a lot of stuff going on the screen here. That was my fault, Mr. Donnelly. I'm sorry, and it'll be reflected.
It was Dr. Richard Green talking. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night.